My name is Commander Patricio Garcia, and I serve as a Senior Regulatory Officer in the Center for Devices and Radiological Health, Office of Management, Division of Management Services. On March 10, 2020, I deployed for a COVID-19 mission to Dobbins Air Reserve Base, Georgia, as a team lead for case management. In previous months, many cruise ships were afloat at sea with passengers who contracted the coronavirus, leading to the possible viral exposure to the remaining passengers. When cruise ships had permission to dock, a lawful quarantine order from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention was issued to each passenger who disembarked. The order directed each passenger remanded at a quarantine site for 14 days. There's a saying in the Navy, "The only easy day was yesterday." On this deployment mission, there were no typical days. Each day was different, and each day we learned something new about ourselves, the people we care for as our guests, and especially human factors. Information was a constant dynamic challenge. We briefed on the information we had at the beginning and end of each day. We also debriefed as a team for situational awareness of the mission and team members. The debriefs allowed us to recognize and acknowledge things like birthdays and anniversaries, since the team could not celebrate these occasions with their own families. We were now their family for the time being. The days were long, in the first week averaging about 22 to 26-hour days. Yes, 26 hours. Once we got into a rhythm, we averaged about 8 to 16-hour days after the second week. We received our guests by charter flights, on average about 150 guests at a time, and usually they landed around 1 a.m. Upon arrival, the guests were screened for COVID-19 symptoms and were interviewed for information to accommodate them appropriately. The interview process provided us a critical opportunity to capture guests' contact information and record any special needs, taking into account the need to assign rooms in proximity to families and those traveling together. We wanted to make sure that everyone would feel safe and comfortable as best we could. Unfortunately, some of our guests demonstrated COVID-19 symptoms and were immediately separated and transported to a hospital for evaluation and care. The setup at Dobbins reminded me of something out of a Hollywood drama involving a contagion scenario, but it was real. There were 5 sites where our guests resided, and each location was on a different part of the base. Each site had at least 3 large tents set up for administration, medical services, and donning and doffing of personal protective equipment to enter and exit the quarantine fenced-in area. Each site was fenced in with multiple diesel-powered floodlights around the perimeter, guarded by armed U.S. Marshals at every angle. Operationally, we housed our guests in military buildings that were scheduled for renovations and not occupied for a long while. Inside, our guests walked around the perimeter with their masks on. It was the most common activity and exercise our guests could do to combat the monotony. We initiated a hotline so our guests could call us and let us know their immediate needs or issues that needed attention. The hotline also allowed us to build a database to identify trends, perform a qualitative analysis, and record the guests' needs. Through this process, we made ourselves accountable by tracking when the request was received and fulfilled. Some of the more common requests were about obtaining clothes because their luggage didn't follow them to the quarantine site. We forwarded those requests to the cruise line for corrective action. The hotline was also vital in our communication with the guests because it gave us content for our daily town hall meetings. What I will remember most about this time are the acts of kindness from our guests who wanted to express their appreciation. Many wrote to us thank you cards and notes. The irony of this kind gesture was that we couldn't accept them to mitigate the virus transmission. Instead, we took pictures of the cards and taped them onto the wall so all the case managers would have a sense of accomplishment and appreciation as they went home for the night to get some rest. What keeps me going is the notion and sense of responsibility to those I am charged with to provide their needed daily care. The wearing of the uniform is also a big part of it because when people see it, their expectation is immediate and it provides a sense that they will be cared for and kept safe. The United States Public Health Service is the only public health force globally, and that in itself is a solemn responsibility. I am honored and proud of the opportunity to lead and develop case managers from multiple deployment teams from around the United States. In every aspect, we operated as a cohesive unit. Most of all, we took care of each other. I hope our case managers take their experience from this mission and build on it in future missions.